All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to our March I Am Tech Oregon interview sponsored by First Tech Federal Credit Union. I'm Ruthie Dutzler, TAO's Marketing and Regional Programs Coordinator, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm the moderator for the 2021 I Am Tech Oregon series, and I'm super excited to be part of today's discussion with some amazing women in tech in honor of Women's History Month and International Women's Day earlier this week. There are two members of the TAO team with me today, Justin Martinez and Kara Toronto. As you may know, Justin's a pro at making sure all of our events run smoothly, and Kara is here to keep the conversation flowing in the chat. Just a few Zoom etiquette points. We're all experts on Zoom so far, but as a reminder, participants have been muted, and we ask that you remain on mute. We will have a chance for folks to ask some live Q&A questions later. But in the meantime, you can also ask or respond to questions in the chat box or direct private messages to Kara. Kara loves to connect with other people, and she'll be monitoring the chat box to make sure everyone's questions get answered. And then if you're feeling excited or want to support our guests, we encourage you to use the participant icons to applaud or give a thumbs up to cheer on the three guest speakers today. And with three folks sharing their thoughts, this hour is going to speed by. So we're doing a special extended event with three guests, but we've allotted time for audience Q&A using Mentimeter. And you'll be able to access the Q&A scanning the QR code on the screen or visiting menti.com and entering the voting code. So we will reshare these access details when we come to the Q&A at the end of the event. Please engage with us on social media throughout the day. Monitoring TAO's social media is part of my job, and I love to respond to people and have interactions with our event participants. So definitely share a takeaway from one of our guests today if you have anything that comes up. And without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome three women who represent three very different careers and experiences working in tech. Aliina Sconiers, a technical recruiter with IT motives. Dani Marino, who's the Director of Client Solutions at Go Global. And Priyansha Bagaria, who's the CRO with Invis AI.
Hello, everyone.
All right, awesome. So we're just gonna start off. As we mentioned, the three of you represent the diversity of roles in our tech ecosystem. And so I'd love it if each of you could just share a bit more about yourself and how you ended up in the career you find yourself today. Priyansha, you wanna get us started?
Sure. Thank you so much, Rudy, for the amazing introduction, and feel very special to be a part of TAO event today. Yeah, so I am Priyansha Bagaria, Chief Revenue Officer of Invis AI. It's an AI startup based out of Seattle. And about my career journey, how I started, it's very funny. I have a computer science degree and engineering in computer science. And then I ended up doing nothing in computer science for 2 years. I was a core marketing person. So yeah, that's how I started with my career. I was working with my dad in manufacturing. So yeah, like completely 360 degrees diversion. Did that for two years, and then went for my MBA to Netherlands. And I was in Amsterdam for a couple of years, worked in FMCG, again, got back to tech. So yeah, like tech was my calling. I think I was just trying to avoid it, but yeah, I got back to tech. Worked in, I was responsible for the cloud migration of this FMCG company called Friesland Campina. It's a big dairy company. And I took care of the migration for them, and I did that for a couple of years, and then got introduced to AI. And now I started my first company when I was in Amsterdam after working for that FMCG company, did that for couple of years and then moved to Seattle and started InvisAI. And this is kind of a nutshell of my story so far.
Awesome, thank you. What about you, Dani?
Hello, everyone. Dani Marino here. Yeah, I am a translator. That's what my degree is on. I'm Argentinian, so I got my degree there. And then when I finished, right as I finished college, one of my professors invited me to work for Accenture. It's a real big consulting company as an interpreter. And they wanted 2 of us. So it was me and someone else. And they said they just wanted 1 of us. And we're like, well, you know, professor, can you please pick? She said, well, I'm not going to do that. Get a coin and let fate decide. So we did that and I won. So that's why I got the job at Accenture. And it was for First Data. That was our client, their big credit card processor. And I started as an interpreter and they just loved what I did with communication. They were working with a client in a language that they didn't understand. And suddenly I came in and they were just communicating with them. So they loved that. And then they saw leadership skills. And then they saw that I understood testing because I was learning it through interpreting. And so they said, are you interested in working as a tester, software tester? And I said, sure, if you want to teach me more, I'll, you know, it sounded fun to break code. And apparently I was good at it. So it was fun. And then I ended up being a leader in that team. So that was my introduction, completely unplanned, into software. And then I went to work with MindBody. They're a software company in California. And I ended up being a QA manager as well there in software testing. And then Go Global was part of my history all throughout, because I worked with them as a translator throughout my whole career. And then I started working with them full time in 2015. And now I'm a director of client solutions. And what we do at Go Global is language solutions. So everything like translation and interpreting, and technology is part of our lives for sure. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. Thank you.
Yeah, I love this sort of like, you know, I think a lot of times people are really concerned with like planning your career out and like, I'm going to do this and this and this. And it's like the more conversations I have with people about their career journeys, it's just like, sometimes you just stumble into these things and then all of a sudden it's like, you know, a really amazing career. What about you, Aliina? Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Thank you, Ruthie. First of all, I want to say it is amazing to get to sit on a panel with such dynamic women. I feel honored to be a part of it, so thank you very much. Like you said, I was definitely one of those people that fell into recruiting. I started off as a 6th grade teacher. From that, I went into motivational speaking and then personal training, then corporate relations. And those all are different things, but at the bottom line, it all includes relationships and motivation. And that's what recruiting is. I'm lucky to work for an organization that really values my ability to go out and build relationships in the community. And technology is fascinating. I was introduced to the CEO of my company by a friend, and we just sort of took it from there, and it's been a great fit for the past 7 years.
That's awesome. And we were talking in our prep call too about, you know, there's such a diversity of roles when we talk about the tech ecosystem that TAO is part of. It's like, there's everyone, you know, Priyansha represents a startup founder. Dani is more like someone, you know, who's working for the software company. You're actually like doing the testing and stuff like that. And then Aliina is more of like the service provider side of it. So it's like this really, this spectrum of different ways that you could get involved with working in tech. I'm curious, you know, as women in this industry, do you see yourself represented among your peers, among leadership, among fellow startup founders? What's your experience been around that identity as a woman in tech? What do you think for you, Aliina? How has it been?
It's definitely, it's interesting. At my company I work for, we are 100% women, minority, and veteran status, which is very, very rare. It's one of the things that I'm most proud of working for IT Motives, but it's not what we find everywhere. Other recruiting companies, other tech companies, they're still working on growing their minority and POC culture. But I think it's growing. There's a real desire for companies, not just to say that they want to reflect society a little bit better, but they're taking initiatives. They're wanting to reach out to certain groups. And that's certainly what we're doing as well. We're really trying to increase those numbers, because it would be nice to walk into a tech company and see more women, more people of color. That's one of my goals personally.
Yeah, what about you, Dani?
Yeah, my experience has been surrounded by women in my career. In Accenture, Mindbody too, and managers and directors. Go Global, the two founders are two women, and in the language industry, there's more women than men. So I've been surrounded by women, and they have played a key role even before my professional career, from school, starting like very early. Women have been very present, and I have never, felt that men, oh, no, like there's been a lot of women, and it's been awesome and very inspiring, and I've always seen them in positions of leadership. But humans are also different, and we all get to see very different experiences, but that was mine, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome to have so many sort of female mentors throughout your career. What about you, Priyansha? What's your experience been with that identity as a woman in tech, and you're as a startup founder?
Yeah. No, so when I started, my dad was very, very supportive. Like, being a woman out there, I remember even in my company, there were just two of us. So like, there was not much representation. So but I always felt like I was lucky because I had a very supporting dad who would encourage me to do things. And there was no difference between me and my brother, both of us working in the company. So that was a brilliant start. But when I went even to Netherlands, and I was in a team of, like my team, like the company that I work for had 30,000 employees. So it was a big company. But just in my team of 100, there were just two women out there. So I realized that, it really needed like more of women representation. And so then when I started the company, I realized that I want to make sure that I have more and more like-minded women participating, being there out in the workforce. And while trying to do that, what we've done is for my company, for Invis AI, we have a product called Looper. And for Looper, the data annotation part, I have tried to hire majority women. So like for now, out of 60 people who are in the annotation team, we have 50 of them as women. So like, and these are the women who come from very small town in India, and they have very limited resources, access, and we're trying to help them and provide, try to make them be a part of the workforce. So this representation of women is something which is very, very close to my heart, because I know that I got lucky to be where I am, but there are a lot of people who have the potential. It's just that they lack the opportunity. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that you're like pulling other people up behind you. You've got that access, and now you're opening the door to others. That's really incredible. And to have 50 out of 60 people on that team be women, it's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about imposter syndrome. And this is a question that we ask on all of the I Am Tech Oregon calls, because it's something that I think that no matter what your identity is, I think that most folks experience this. And, as women in tech, where there's not as much representation, I think it's a really common phenomenon. So what was that like for you, or have you experienced imposter syndrome, Priyansha, when you were sort of what you were talking about, being like one of two women on a 100-person team?
Yeah, so it used to be very different, right? Like even the conversation that you would have it, like there were at times like, and I was the youngest. I mean, even being a woman, I was the youngest in the team. Like the next person to me was 10 years older to me. So I was like, what am I doing? Like, you need to prove yourself. You want them to take you seriously, so that, yeah. And it was a struggle. So I definitely could feel that, like they would make some plans to step out, or we'll have these meetings outside, and I would really be like, okay, but then I realized that I have to prove myself. I have to make a point that I do exist in the team, and they have to take me seriously. So yeah, sooner or later, like they opened up, and I could be a part of them, and I'm still in touch with my old team members. But I would say, yeah, I could feel it, that was pretty much there.
Yeah, Dani or Aliina, have either of you had experiences with imposter syndrome throughout your career?
When I got your email, Ruthie, to join this panel, it's like, why would they want to talk to me? That's a great example of imposter syndrome. Because I was thinking, what do I have to offer? Luckily, my boss was like, you are valued. You have something to say. People like you. And so I got, a little pumped up. But yeah, we always have to, I question myself all the time when I'm having a conversation with somebody who's technical, for example. And I realize that if I'm genuine and I ask good questions and I come off as a person who really wants to learn and grow and caring, it usually, that imposter syndrome goes away because I'm being real to myself.
Yeah, being in alignment with yourself, key to many things. What about you, Dani?
I can add to that, like when I go to sleep at night, I think about the day and I'm always questioning myself. Like I should have done this different. I shouldn't have said that. I should have said this different. Tomorrow I have to go to this person. So I think not like in a full force imposter syndrome, but a certain amount of self-doubt, I think keeps me in check and I think it's humbling. So I wouldn't say like, I have experienced this as a syndrome, like a big thing, but definitely it's something that I have learned to like about myself when I question and when I think about, am I prepared for this? Maybe I'm not, and that takes me onto a mental journey that it usually ends up. I have to remain strong during that journey so that the self-doubt doesn't bring me down all the way. But with time, I've learned to appreciate it as something that is humbling and that makes me question myself and try to get better.
Yeah, those are all, each person has their own approach, I think, to sort of handling those feelings of not feeling worthy or feeling self-doubt about something. Thanks for sharing, all of you. I'm curious, we already touched a little bit on, how you all got involved with tech and, experiences in your current field of work. I'm curious, what do you like best about your career? What's your favorite part of your job or your favorite part of being in the tech industry in general? What do you think, Dani? What do you like best?
I'm in love with languages, and when we can help companies serve people that they couldn't serve before because of a language barrier, it's very, very rewarding. We are literally helping people, countries, companies communicate. And that is my favorite. And it's very reassuring because that's what I picked as a career. And I thought that I was going to stay on the testing world, all the time, but then I'm back here and technology is still a part of it. We're actually developing something new in technology that I can't talk about quite yet, but it's related to data. So I may be talking to some of you. So yeah, helping people communicate. I just got a call before this from a client. They're a medical facility and they get sometimes Spanish speakers and they can't solve it. And I'm like, I have a platform for that, and it's great. So enabling communication, it's my favorite part of my job.
I love that. And hearing you talk about your job, I can tell you really like it. That you have like some really great energy around it, which is amazing. Because oftentimes when you ask people about their work, they're like, my job, but it's great that you have something that you love so much. What about you, Priyansha? What do you like best about your career so far?
Yeah, so like Dani, the difference that you make in people's life, for our customers, like when they could really see the savings that they have done in revenue and it all makes, and one thing is like we also try to, there's this one new woman who wanted to become an entrepreneur, and she had a brilliant idea, but she didn't have a team. So we basically helped her build her product. And it's all about these things, like bringing them into what they really want to do and supporting them to get their dreams. Like this is something which makes me very, very happy. Yeah.
Awesome. We have a question about mentorship coming up, but yeah, I think that sounds like a really amazing part. What about you, Aliina? What do you like best about what you do?
I love the idea of bringing together people that we've gotten to know and companies that we've gotten to know, and then bring them together to make sort of a perfect match. I think we've all been a matchmaker with friends, perhaps, in our lives, and had the satisfaction of, oh my gosh, I brought these two people together. It's very like that, very much like that in recruiting. I get to know the candidates, we get to know our accounts, and then when they come together and this magic happens, it's very inspiring and motivational, and there's an energy that comes with it, a recruiter high, if you will. So I just love that, the making connections.
I see a theme across all the three responses from all of you, just about like it's about being supportive of your customers and of your community. That's really incredible. Okay, so flip side question, what's the worst career decision you've ever made, or something that you regret, something that you would go back and do differently? You know, if you could give advice to yourself from the future, what would you do? Aliina, does anything come to mind for you?
I guess I don't like to look at things in terms of regrets, because I do think we learn things and we're able to close chapters and move on. There was a moment in my life, though, I was personal training and I was moved into management. And this is sort of a lesson for all companies. Just because you have a high individual contributor doesn't necessarily mean they're right in a management position without the training and the backing of upper management to help support that transition. So I think I failed terribly as a manager because I wasn't ready for that step in my life. It led me to where I'm at now, so I'm very, very happy, but I probably wouldn't have taken that management role if I had to do it again.
Got it. What about you, Dani?
I think about this question often in my life. Like, is there anything that I regret at different times? And not about my career. I think I went with the flow, and I had to take big risks, like leaving my country. And that happened because of a business trip, you know. And at those moments, I remember asking myself, like, if I do this or if I don't, am I going to regret in the future? And one of the biggest decisions that was moving out of my country, there was so much anxiety around that, but I knew that if I didn't try it, I would regret. And I did it. And it was jumping into the abyss of not knowing what was going to happen. And I was really scared. My parents were too. And I just did it. So I would have regretted if I didn't do that, but I did. And I remember telling myself, Dani, it's better to jump and fail and go back, than not try it. So no, I am very aware of the whole regretting. This life and this life form is one. So if I have a hunch that I may regret, I'm very likely gonna jump even like more. So no, not in my, and there's two things in my personal life that I regret that, you know, is not relevant to this, but that I'm very like, yep, I regret that, but not in my personal journey.
That's amazing. Very inspirational. Everyone should listen to Dani about jumping when you have scary opportunities. Priyansha, what about you? Anything that you would do differently looking back?
Yes, I don't, like Dani said, I don't think I have any regret. Like, I'm also somebody who would like to do things rather than, like, you know, just keep thinking about it and not taking the chance. But yeah, like, so there was a time when I had a job offer letter from Microsoft, and I was supposed to join, but then for personal reasons, I had to move to US. And I was really like, okay, did I take a right decision? It was a dream role. Like, you know, it was something that I really wanted to do. Very good team, everything was working out, and I just moved. And then when I came here, and then COVID happened, and everything was happening, and I'm like, I just started this company, and I was like, wow, like, you know, like, what are you doing? Like, how things are moving? Like, this is like the worst thing that could happen. But I think, yeah, like this, everything happens for a reason. Like, you know, we pretty much can't see it right now, but I think 10 years down the line, I would feel like that happened for the best. So like, there's no regret. There are times when you feel like, okay, are you taking the right decision or not? It might not be the right one, but like you said, life is all about taking chances, and, you know, you win some and you lose some, and that's what I believe in.
Yeah, I agree. It does seem like in hindsight, everything happens for a reason. And it's kind of cool to look back and see, like, you know, little decisions that you make or big decisions, like you don't know in the moment, like where it's going to lead you, but it's kind of cool to look back over your shoulder and see how you ended up where you are. What would you, I'm curious just if any of you have thoughts, like when you were thinking as a kid about what you were going to do, like how would your 10-year-old self react to what you do today? Priyansha, do you have any thoughts about, like, would you be surprised? Would you be excited? How would you have reacted as a kid?
I think my 10-year-old also was very ambitious. I mean, I was always about grades. I remember, like, I used to be so much about marks and grades in school. Like, I was always an ambitious child. But yeah, I never ever would have thought that I would end up starting my own company. So yeah, my 10-year-old would be surprised for sure to see me here. But yeah, I know.
That's awesome. Yeah. What about you, Dani or Aliina?
Yeah, I'm thinking back, like I wanted to do so many things as a kid, like a veterinary, an astronaut. So I don't know. Like I think my 10-year-old would be like, Dani, if you're having a good time, it's all good. So, and I'm painting, so I'm doing creative stuff. So my inner child is smiling at me. Yeah. So, and sometimes there's things that I have to improve, and she talks to me. It's like, hey, you gotta change that habit or do this thing. But I think she's happy with because I love my job. Like it would be nice if we could, and I think the industry is going there, the world. If we could maybe get out of the 8 to 5 rigid schedule. But other than that, I love everything about my job, and my 10-year-old is happy about it.
Awesome.
I think my 10-year-old self would be pretty happy as well. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I know I wanted to be a doctor at some point. I wanted to be a teacher at some point. But I always wanted to work with people. I've always been really outgoing. At 10, I was playing softball, and I was the arm wrestling champion of the class. And I still probably could do that now, but I think I'm really happy with where I came out to be. Nice.
Arm wrestling skills, something you should still keep on your resume.
I know. Maybe the top bullet.
Awesome. Great. So I want to talk a little bit about mentorship. So as I think most of you know, we have programming at TAO called Power Pairing, which is about getting women tech executives and their mentees together in the same room. And thinking about just different ways that we can help advance the careers of other women in our industry. And I'm curious, like, have you had women mentors that have influenced you? And kind of a spin-off of that question is just like, if there are other women in tech on this call who are looking for mentorship, what suggestions do you have for them as places to reach out to find mentors? Dani, do you want to start with this question? Like, who have been some mentors for you?
Yeah, and women actually. And like I was going to school and I love the Backstreet Boys, but I didn't understand the language. So just go and sing along without knowing what they were saying. And that developed my ear. And I was studying English in school, and my teacher was like, Dani, you got something here. And I just didn't see it as that. Like for me, it was a class, and the Backstreet Boys were the Backstreet Boys, and she called my mom and she said, you gotta take your daughter to study and do something with her English because it's really good. And my mom did. So that right there, she cared to notice, and she cared to call my mom and got me on this path that I'm in today. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. So she was the first mentor. And then throughout my career too, managers and directors that I work with, in Accenture, there was a mentorship program. I got to be mentored and I got to mentor people. And right now, Paula Ferrari, she's the COO of our company, and I see her as a mentor. She gives me all of her wisdom and knowledge very openly. So I see her as that, and she's my boss, but I see her as my mentor also. And then on channels, I'm not sure what's like, if there are any channels. It sounds like the TAO may have one. LinkedIn is a good place to connect with professionals. But yeah, I don't know much about channels other than, you know, if you know someone, just exchange emails or meet every once in a while or a video call. Yeah.
Yeah, it never hurts to reach out to someone and say, hey, I'm really inspired by your career. I'd love to connect with you and just learn more about you. That's been super helpful for me. Even just getting an idea, like what we're doing in this call, of like someone's path to where they are now. Because if someone's working in a job that you aspire to do, you know, or you're really interested in their career, it's like everyone just has a really unique story of how they got to where they are. And I love having those conversations. Aliina, what about you? What are like women mentors or suggestions for mentorship?
I'm not sure if I have any great suggestions. I do think mentorship is extremely important. My first female mentor was my mom. One of my oldest memories, I was 4 and I watched her get her master's degree. My father had passed away when I was a baby. So as a single parent of 2 kids, she went back to school and I got to see that happen. And to watch your mom establish such a big milestone, she was the first person in our family to even go to college. It's imprinted importance of education on me forever. So when I went to school, there was not a question of, oh, am I going to college? Oh, am I going to get a bachelor's? No, I'm getting a master's like my mom. And so when I got my MBA, it was a big like, yeah, look what I did, Mom. And I love the idea of somebody being that important. It doesn't have to be a parent. It can be a teacher. It can be a boss. It can be just an important community member. And I would love to play that role in somebody else's life. You know, besides my own kid.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit just with this group of everyone who's presenting today, kind of about different ways that TAO can kind of leverage our community and figure out ways to get more involved with mentorship for women in tech. So stay tuned for potential ideas coming from our team about that. Okay, so to you, Priyansha, what about mentorship?
Yeah, so like Aliina, I think my mom and my dad, like they were the first mentor, and she would always encourage me, like go out there, do well, like study well, respect everybody. So like these are the, I mean, yeah, it has all inculcated in me from like childhood by my parents, I would say. And then our teachers, definitely while growing up, there've been so many incidents, small and big, that really pushed you in this part where we are right now. So yeah. But one person that definitely made a lot of difference and who got me in AI is my professor from Netherlands. And I've always been in touch with her. So like after MBA, like we always like, we'll check on each other, how are we doing and everything. And I remember I was in this cross part of what do I do in life next and how am I going to decide? And she was the first one who asked me, why don't you do this fellowship from Cornell? And I was like, oh, like, it's AI and I haven't done coding for so long and how am I going to like it? And she was like, like, just trust me, like, go ahead. You might just love it. And that's the future. And at that point of time, I honestly took it up because I didn't want to say no to her. And I had no clue how I'm going to survive on because it was a crazy tough course. And I was like, shit, like, she really wants me to do this. And I was like, okay. And I remember when I did that and I loved it. And I really, really, like, it was the most difficult thing I've done, but I just loved it. And I remember calling her and I'm like, you know what? Like, I think where I am right now, a major, like, I would say credit goes to her because she was the one who got me in this when I actually didn't want to. Like, I was at that point of time, I was like, I am not going to do this. And I ended up doing it. And I'm very, very grateful to her. So, yeah. And in terms of what can be done, like I always try, like, if somebody wants to approach me and talk to me about how to start a company, how, like, I'm very open to have those conversations. I always try to get back to my peers and talk to them, like, if I'm stuck with something, be it people I've met in college or be it people at my old workplace, like, my directors or my managers whom I've spoken to, reported to, I've always asked them, like, I always try to get back to them because I think they're the best people. They know what I've done, what are my capabilities, which I might not know. And, they push me for that. So I would say, reach out, like go back to the people. It can be somebody like your friend, and they might have something that they have experienced in their life, which can, like, make a difference to you. So yeah, like don't think about before approaching people. What the worst can happen is a no, right? They would not answer, but you never know like what opportunities can come to you when you do that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's such a great idea. Prior to starting at TAO, when I was kind of considering what I wanted to do next, I actually did that with a few women, with a few friends, where we just sat down and, you know, when it was your turn, all you did was take notes while the other people told you what you were good at, you know, and what they really admired about you. And like for the person, you know, who's sharing, when you're sharing about someone else, it's super easy. It's like, oh, Priyansha, you do this so well, and I really like this about you. And then like to hear that, it's like, oh my gosh. But when you're redoing your resume, that can actually be super helpful because you're getting this direct feedback about, you know, how other people see you. That's awesome. Okay, so one last question before we open it up to the audience for questions for you all. Just generally, if there's a piece of wisdom, something that's benefited you in your life and career that you want to kind of leave us with today, something you want to put on the table, now's your time. Like, what would it be, your nugget of wisdom? Dani, why don't you kick this one off?
Yes, I would love to share. Take control of your mind. Your mind is yours. I have recently closed all of my social media accounts, and it's been great. My mind is cleaner, and I feed it only with what I want. I don't watch scary movies or violent stuff. So I have made the conscious decision to only give my mind the information that I want. And that has been really nice. And then do what feels good to you, as long as you're not bothering others, you know, like you have to have a certain common sense. But I think that as long as you do what feels good to you, everything else will unfold. Creativity, whatever that is, it may be sitting by the fireplace or outside and doodling something that doesn't look like anything. Creativity has a chemical reaction on our bodies, and it clears our minds. Like I was saying, I paint, and I'm not like a super professional painter at all. I have very little training, but just getting into my little corner and playing with colors is so good for my mental health. So whatever that is, creativity, find that thing, and it can be different things throughout time. Gardening, cooking, reading to your kids, whatever. But if you don't have one thing that you can label as creative, it may be a good time to find it. And then one more is go with the flow. And we kind of touched on this, and it's helped me so much throughout my life and my career. Even in the times of uncertainty, I trusted. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna relax and let the river take me. And even though it wasn't what I wanted at the time, you know, because I wanted things, they didn't work out. And it was frustrating at the time. But then in the thinking process, I knew that it would be okay. And looking back, it was okay. So go with the flow, and there's ups and downs. So don't get too sad on the lows, just take them as part of what it is and see what they got for you. Thank you for asking that question.
Yeah, thanks for answering. I love that you talk about creativity. I have a Post-it right here on my computer that says, don't leave your thoughts locked away in your mind, explore your creativity. And I just read that, so it's cool. What about you, Priyansha? What do you think, anything you want to leave before we open it up to Q&A?
Yeah, so 3 things that I totally believe in is, first is never doubt yourself. I mean, I love myself. If I don't love myself, nobody's going to take me seriously. So I always, like, you know, even if you have doubts, like it's just you who can do this. That's what I always believe in. So that's always like number 1 for me. Number 2 for me is that it's always about giving back to you. Like I don't always expect that I should get this, I should get that. Whereas I feel like, you know, every small thing that you make change, that can bring a big change to somebody's life, it's going to come back to you in some way or the other. So I always believe in giving back to you, to like, you know. And the third thing, what Dani said, is informal creativity. Like for me, there should be some kind of activity that you should do. Like I said, like, you know, cooking can be a stress buster. For me, at times, I love to cook my favorite thing. Like I've been having a very bad day, but I'll just come back home and make like, a really good, meal for myself. I'll just do something like, some kind of activity or probably a workout. Like it just helps so much. So I would, the third thing would be really like focus on, do something out of your normal work. And that can also keep you going. Like it will help you in some way.
Yeah, totally. When I feel like crap, I can just go for a walk outside, and it amazes me every single time how that actually works. All right, Aliina, take it away. Any last thoughts from you?
I love the idea of stress relief and creativity and self-love. I'm all for those things. My parting wisdom is a saying that was told to me by one of my colleagues who has actually passed away. So I want to give him credit, Angelo Seminary. He told me when I first got started in recruiting, he said, don't be afraid to make the aggressive mistake. And I heard that with Dani as she moved to a different country. And I heard that with Priyansha as she started a new company. And with me taking a conversation with somebody about a field that I had no idea about. If you're a little bit aggressive and you're willing to make mistakes, then it can really pay off in the end. So don't be afraid to try something new.
Love that. Very cool. Okay, so now we're going to open it up to audience questions. So we have these three amazing women here. I'm sure that you all have questions you'd love to hear from them. So Justin is going to put the Mentimeter QR code. So you can either scan that with your phone, or you can go to menti.com and input that code 63082702. And it'll take us just a minute for everyone to kind of get in there. But yeah, this will be the chance if you have questions about their careers, you can ask specific people questions, and then we'll be able to see that happen live on the screen. And this is the part where we need Justin's jazzy music back, like the Jeopardy soundtrack or something. Oh, there we go. Nice. Okay.
Well, while we wait for questions to come in, I have a question. So this morning, Ruthie and I were actually messaging each other back and forth about, she and I tend to have some like perfectionistic tendencies that are extremely difficult for both of us, which is really hard in an event, world, or like in a service provider capacity, that like you want everything to be perfect. And Ruthie had actually suggested a book, and I'll include that in the chat and the details that come out with this video. But I was curious, I mean, other people must experience that same feeling or that same drive. How do you not let that deter you or hinder your success? Like you're wanting for everything to be perfect and good, and it doesn't always happen that way. How do you approach that feeling?
Justin, you want to direct that to like one person in
Oh yeah, let's start with Dani. How about you?
Yeah, so I see that in painting, for example. I'm on a project, it's called the Vision Train, and it's a place where it's a Zoom call going 24/7, and we paint. And most of the painters there are professional painters, and they're visionaries, and they paint perfection, and I watch them sculpt beings in these paintings that they're just perfect, and I am not there at all. With painting in particular, like and I struggle with this a little bit. I'm like, am I wasting my time? And then, I question myself and everything. But then I for example, with creativity, I tell myself, it's about having a good time, even if it's not perfect. If it feels good to me, the time that I spend in my studio, even if I just play with one color in one little piece of the canvas, it's all good. So that is with creativity. And then with work, my husband is very perfectionist. I don't stress too much about it. I'm very, very, very much, I go with the flow. I do my best. And if things don't go right, I like, yeah, I messed up here. What can I learn? But I do see with my husband that he's a perfectionist, and we have this conversation many times. It's like, how can I, because it's like, I want it to be so perfect that I don't even want to start sometimes, you know? But I think just do the little bits and do it the best you can, and the best to your ability, every step. And I think that just focusing on every little step, knowing that you're doing the best, I think that can help you. Like, take the focus out of the whole perfection into the I'm doing my best in every little step.
That's great advice. Yeah. Looking at these little pieces of like, you're doing your best in this area, and less like of like, oh, this one thing went, you know, not the way I wanted it to, and it's gonna blow everything else up. That's, yeah, that helps put it in perspective.
Yeah.
We do have our first question, Ruthie. Do you want to let people volunteer, or should we popcorn?
Yeah, let's just popcorn. So this is someone's asking, what's the best tip for staying engaged and motivated in the virtual COVID world? What are you going to carry with you as things become normal again? Do you have any new rituals? Just generally thoughts about COVID. Anyone want to start with that? How about Aliina?
I have a comment about that. Working from home, and I've always been virtual, at least in this position. I was finding myself, I'd wake up and I'd automatically check my phone for emails and messages, and that was the last thing I was doing before bed. And I had to stop that. Now when I get up in the morning, I make sure I do at least 5 things before going into work mode. When I go to sleep, there's a time that I shut off and I don't even look at my phone. I try not to think about work. I'm spending dedicated time with my son so that I'm intentional with when I'm working, and I'm intentional when I'm doing my self-care or exercising, because otherwise it gets too blurry, and then you find that you're always in work mode, and that's just not healthy. We need to compartmentalize some of our work energy, and then some of our fun energy, and some of our family energy. We still need to be flowy, but I don't want to be in work mode all the time. And I'm going to carry that into pre or post COVID life as well.
Yes, I love that. Like, and it's hard work to set boundaries. It's not easy, but for sure, that's super important. What about you, Priyansha? Any things that you are gonna, like, things that have helped you during COVID that you're gonna continue on moving forward?
Yeah, like just talking to, talk is again, for me, it's more like trying to step out for a walk, like not really shutting myself off for some time. But I really like my work. So I think I'm so engrossed at it. Like now when you guys are talking, I was like, oh, really? Like, do I really even feel like taking a break like that way? But yeah, like the things that I do is we watch some stuff on Netflix, or we just go for a walk, and I spend time with my husband, and I connect with my family quite a bit. So I think they are my biggest stress buster. Like I have to talk to my sister and my mom every single day. Like I need to, even if it's a 5-minute conversation. I think that really helps me in doing what I'm doing currently. Like, I don't realize, but it really helps a lot. So yeah.
Awesome. What about you, Dani?
Yeah. For me, I'm kind of like in my professional life, I'm talkative and everything, but in my personal life, I'm more of like a hermit. I read and I paint. So that's been good with COVID. Like, that's fine. I'll stay in my house, no problem. The one thing that had a very visible effect on me is not being able to go to the gym. I was going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, doing my kickboxing class, doing sauna. I was feeling great. My energy levels were up, everything good. Well, now with the gyms not open, and I'm not gonna, wearing a mask, I tried, doesn't work. I gained weight. I started eating a little more, partying a little more. So recently, we talked to my husband and we're like, we gotta holidays are done. We gotta chill now. Let's get ourselves into a healthy habits again. We can't go to the gym. What are we gonna do? So we grabbed the calendar and we put ourselves in a 10-day workout challenge. And we said, okay, if we're gonna want to do, you know, what I need and what he needs to do is do it every day. Because the times that we try doing it at home, Monday and Wednesday, we drop the ball. So we're like, we have to do this every single day, 30-minute workout, very easily, small chunk. Perfect. We did the 10-day work challenge. It worked great. We felt awesome. But we were missing the sauna. And you know what we did? We built ourselves a sauna. We designed it. We bought the wood, beautiful cedar. We worked hard on it, like real hard for 2 weeks. And now we got a sauna. So now we have this thing that we do a 30-minute workout every day during the work days, not during the weekends, and then the sauna. So the sauna keeps us motivated to work out and work out to do the sauna. So it became like a really good way for us to anchor our healthy workout habit in times of COVID. And we're probably going to keep this moving forward.
I love that. You give yourself a reward at the end and you're like, okay, I can't get the reward until I do the thing. That's awesome. All right, Justin, any other questions coming through? If not, it's okay for us to wrap a little bit early, but I just want to make sure that we're getting to, oh, here we go. In your respective fields and areas of expertise, what do you see as the next big thing that you're able to share? Because I know, Dani, you have something under wraps coming up with Go Global, but what do you want to start us off? Like, what's the next big thing?
Yeah, data in our world. I think that human language services are going to continue. I don't see that finishing, but already technology for translation is a thing and it's getting better. So we're incorporating that. So that's already part of our present. But as companies are automating more customer support, there is this need for machines to be able to read the customer's input and try to figure out, you know, are they upset? Are they happy? What do they need? So data can inform those decisions. So I think that going deeper into data intelligence, I think it's where I see the future going. And hopefully that can, you know, going back to the whole, I want to get out of the 9 to 8 to 5, or I think that the machines could potentially come help with that and do the things that are repetitive. We can automate all that and then focus on the things where humans can add value. Yeah, good question.
Thanks. What about you, Aliina? What do you see as the next big thing in technical recruiting?
Oh, well, we work with a variety of companies that are doing very cool things with their products. So I don't know if I can speak to just one cool thing that I see on the horizon, except for that I do foresee remote work being a bigger piece of the puzzle. People aren't going to need to go into the office as much because we're realizing we're very productive in our home environments.
Yeah, we just had an event this week about returning to work, and there were a few folks who are, you know, chief of people or whatever, HR. And that's a big part of the discussion. It's like, that's going to be a demand for employees moving forward, is flexibility and the ability to kind of work from anywhere, and how companies are going to adapt to that will be really interesting. Mm-hmm. What about you, Priyansha? What's happening in AI? What's the next big thing?
So my company, we focus a lot on retail, and I think COVID has really changed how retail used to function. And like, you know, now every company is trying to move from brick and mortar to e-commerce practically as soon as possible. And there've been a lot of advancements that's happening in that direction. A lot of companies who really didn't have a strong tech team, or they were not working with AI, they all could see like a requirement of it right now. So we could see a lot of development happening in that space. And as with e-commerce picking up a lot of orders, so there's a lot of issue with return orders as well. So we have a lot of customers approaching us to suggest them solution in terms of how to take care of all of it. So we are working on some really cool stuff right now in this space. And yeah, like I could see like what we have right now in terms of AI, like automation, it's gonna really go up very quickly. So COVID has really pushed it more, that would say. I mean, it was going up, but the development wouldn't have been as fast as it is happening right now. So AI has application pretty much in all industries across, and we could see that picking up, like, you know, be it health, be it even for manufacturing. All of those things have come up very quickly now. Before it used to be, you would go to the people to talk to them. Okay, this is what you can do. Now it's more like they come to us telling us, okay, this is the problem. How can you help us? So, you know, that's the kind of change I've seen post-COVID. So, I mean, yeah, so that's good.
Awesome, thank you. So I think I know that Dani has to hop off her Zoom. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap up now. Thank you so much to everyone for submitting questions and for your support of our guest speakers today. We do have our next I Am Tech Oregon event, the one coming up in April. Our theme for April is startups. So we're going to be talking with the founder and CEO of Fundamental Fitness Labs. And registration for that event is live on our website. And I'll also send a registration link when we send out a feedback survey and the recording of this event later today or tomorrow. And then I'm just going to pop a link in the chat. We have another event coming up at the end of the month that's with some partners actually based out of London. And it's kind of looking at just advancing women in tech. It's as an international challenge. So that's an upcoming event related to International or Women's History Month, excuse me. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. Remember that we are all Tech Oregon. We really appreciate our 3 panelists, and I hope that everyone has a beautiful Thursday. Thank you very much.